Hi and Assalamualaikum. On this video, my groupmate and I will present about financial accounting and reporting of a sole proprietorship. This video is prepared for our lecturer, Professor Madya Dr. Aida Maria binti Ismail. My group is represented by 5 people. First is myself, Farsha Umaira, Nur Shamimi, Nur Akila, Siti Baidatul Banisa and Alia Afrina. Now, we go through to the topic that we will present. First, we will go through content. On this slide, we will talk about business background, business characteristic, classification of item in business, the recording process, and lastly is strength and weaknesses. Business background. A woman by the name of Siti Hajar Muhammad Razali is the owner of this Suka Dessert Cafe. She started the business with her husband's support, which is Encik Muhammad Syafiq Muhammad Zamshari. Siti Hajar, or known as Auntie Jar, admits she's having a milk chocolate addiction, and for the past 3 years, this obsession has fueled by the growth of her business. Suka Dessert started operations in 2018. They finally located at Selayang after go through many challenges to start the business. The hall of their house was initially converted into a baking area by Siti Hajar. She quickly came to the realization that she needed more space and rented a home in Kepong where she could bake. After starting out in the hall of her home, she launched her first shop in Taman Kepong Indah about a year later. But a year later, Siti Hajar encountered space issues once more. Therefore, on 21st July 2020, she moved to another cafe in Selayang and occupied 4 units. Suka Dessert Cafe has more than 20 employees, including her sibling who work there. Type of the business is sole proprietorship, which is in my research, Suka Dessert is a business that owned by only Siti Hajar. A company also has a limited liability partnership. For capital, Siti Hajar used her own funds between 1,000 to 2,000 ringgit to buy various equipment. Other than that, she received loans from certain family members and friends. This cafe sells a variety of food such as samyang, cheese fries, western food, and many more. But the main product is, of course, a dessert based with different types of chocolate. Interesting here, there are many options that customer can choose, and this is not focused on just one dessert.
Hi, my name is Nur Shamimi binti Amiruddin. I'm from NBSA 3A. I will discuss about business characteristic. In the business characteristic, firstly, I will discuss about the business registration. Suka Desserts, on the other hand, is a company that makes dessert based on chocolate. In the last 3 years, the business has been registered as a sole proprietorship with Suruhanjaya Syarikat Malaysia under the Registration of Business Act 1965. This company serves a diverse range of clients. There are fewer rivals and a strong demand for this sort of business, and the primary goal of a sole proprietorship is to raise profits. Next, we talk about the capital and business ownership. Capital is a fund raised to support a certain firm, and project are referred to as a capital. Capital can also refer to a company's accumulated wealth, which is represented by its asset minus its liabilities. Capital can also refer to a company's share or ownership. Cash in bank account, tangible machinery such as product, equipment, machinery, storage buildings, and other types of capital are all examples of capital. Raw materials are not considered capital in the production process. Suka Dessert started the business beginning with bringing in the paid-out capital of Rm1,000 to Rm2,000 ringgit of the owner's saving to purchase an oven and other equipment. Some family members and friends also loan her money to start her business, which she has since repaid. Besides, the owner also take a personal loan to buy more equipment for baking, such as oven and chillers, to help the business expand. Let's talk about the business ownership. Suka Dessert is owned by one person, that is Mrs. Siti Hajar. Suka Dessert is a sole proprietorship business. In the business characteristic, we will talk about the management and control. Mr. Siti Hajar, who manages the company's operation, is fully in charge of Suka Desserts. Suka Desserts has grown to have over 20 employees and a cafe serving both chocolate and non-chocolate desserts. It has also been managed by Mr. Siti Hajar, and now the Suka Desserts Cafe is opening at Selayang and being fully headed by Mr. Siti Hajar. So, what is the liability? Liability is the financial obligation a company has to its creditors, or the sum owed to them is known as its liabilities. Liabilities come in two varieties, that is, current obligation and non-current obligations. The credit side of the ledger will reflect any increases in liabilities. Non-current liabilities are debts that are not expected to be repaid in the next year. It will take a long time to pay it off because of its high worth, possibly longer than a year. The proprietor obtained the initial money from a bank loan. The Suka Desserts Cafe liabilities are current, which means the amount owned by the business that is to be paid within 1 year. The profit or loss earned by the owner determines the assets and liabilities of the business. The last part in the business characteristic is a book of account. The Suka Desserts Cafe accounting is recorded by their team that manage the operation, and the details cannot be shared.
My name is Nur Akila binti Muhammad Noor. I'm going to discuss about classification of business item. Basically, we have 5, which is asset, liabilities, revenues, capital, and expenses. For your information, the main difference between asset and liabilities is that an asset is anything that company owns to provide economic benefit in the future, whereas a liability is something that the company is obligated to repay in future, while revenues and expenses is in statement profit loss. Assets, properties owned by a business which bring future economic benefits. Non-current asset, term investment that has a useful life of more than 1 year. Non-current asset for this business is premises, cafe equipment, kitchen appliance, and lastly, motor vehicles. Asset that are either cash or those that can be converted into a cash within 1 year. For the business, the current asset is inventory, cash at bank, cash in hand. Closing inventory on 31 November 2021, RM 100,000. Liabilities, financial obligation of a business to its creditors. Non-current liabilities, long-term, amount owed by business not repaid within a year. Current liabilities, short-term, amount owing by business to be repaid within a year. Account payable, purchase kitchen equipment, 1,025 ringgit, loan RM 10,000 from CIB Bank. There are also have 2 types of expenses, which is cost of goods sold and other expenses. For the business, the expenses are discount received, salary and wages, Wi-Fi, and lastly, store maintenance. In this business, the capital is 1,000 to 2,000 from the owner's saving to buy oven and other equipment. Owner brought on assets such as motor vehicles. Drawing, the act of taking money of asset from a business for personal use, while withdrawing cash of goods from a business account. Product or equipment taken from the firm to the owner use. They are categorized into type of revenue, which is sale. For the business, the revenue is sale Rm 60,000 per month.
Hi, I am Vanessa and I will be presenting about the recording process. As you can see here, this is the common accounting process in any organization. Let me explain it in general first. So, we start from transaction that we can refer to the source documents such as receipt and invoice. Then we were journalizing it and we posting it into the ledgers. After that, here is the form of trial balance where we check if all the ledgers is balanced or not. Then after any adjustment made, the financial statement for the company is done. So let me explain more about transaction. Transaction is the economic event of a business. So here, the person in charge of the Suka Dessert account needs to identify what transaction happens during their operation. The accounting process starts with the recording of business transactions that are taken from source document. The source documents are of different type depending on the type of transaction. Example of source document are invoice, receipt, debit notes, and credit notes. Whether it is cash, credit, or any type of transaction must be identified for the next process. So the next one is journalizing process. Journal is a book of prime entry where transactions are initially recorded in the order of date. The journal should have a column for date, particulars, debit, and credit. And for this company, since they got an outlet, so they prefer each outlet to have a journal account rather than to make a general journal. And each transaction will be written in their journal manually by using the notebook, where there will be more than just a one notebook to record all of the transactions such as purchases and sales. So the next one is posting all the data from the journal into the ledger. All debit and credit activities affecting general ledger accounts were included. Besides, they provide full information on each transaction, such as the date description and amount, and perhaps some clarification on what the transaction contained. Additionally, the main element of a general ledger is a general ledger account. Each transaction for an account in the general ledger is recorded and referred to various accounting categories such as assets, liabilities, equity, revenues, expenses, gains, and loss are all involved in the transaction. For instance, cash and account receivable are assets of the business. Each asset will have an own general ledger account on the ledger. At the end of the accounting period, a trial balance is prepared. The purpose is to check whether or not transactions have been recorded correctly in the books of account. Adjustments have to make if there are some correction to do with the error. They also have to make at the end of the accounting period for accruals and prepayment of revenue and expenses, doubtful debt, and depreciation. Finally, the financial statement can be prepared by obtaining information from the list of balance in the trial balance. Financial statement includes statement of profit, of loss, and statement of financial position. So, for your information, Suka Dessert is hired a bookkeeper from the account consult company. So, for the account cycle, they will identify transaction and prepare journal manually. Then there will be post in a ledger account which is in the system accounting software where their bookkeeper can reach all of the transaction and prepare the trial balance for them. After that, if there are any adjustment because of the missed transaction happens, they will inform the bookkeeper for the adjustments. And the person in charge of Suka Dessert will receive their full financial statement, will be able to generate from the account system software, so the company may keep it as their reference in the future and also for closing entries at the end of the year.
Next part is the strength and weakness of the recording process. This is where the company internal strength and weakness are factor over which you have some control and you can make changes in the recording process. Let's move to the next point, which is strength. Firstly, is the profit obtained is not shared. Why? Because this business is typically use a little amount of funds, which is practically the same as investing a small amount of money in the stock market. Therefore, if the business is profitable, the owner will receive all profits. Second point is easy to make decision. Because there is freedom when the owner not required to submit reports to anyone. Not only that, the owner also does not need to ask for consent from the third parties. Thirdly, the strength in the recording process is preparation of financial statement because the transaction in Suka Dessert managed by company account consultant so that all the transaction will be reviewed by an external party. So my last point is low tax rates. Why? This is because the personal income tax rate, which range from 0% to 28%, will apply to the net income you receive from the business. Therefore, every profit made and expense incurred for the business may be claimed as personal income and expenses under the law. Besides strength, there also have weakness. So, here are my point. Firstly, the weakness in the recording process is unlimited liability, where the owner is entirely accountable for all financial matters, including liabilities. The owner also would have to use all of her own assets in the event that company went bankrupt. So, the debt collector has access to the saving and property of Siti Haja Muhammad Razali, the owner. Not only that, the owner also must take the responsibilities for her losses alone. My second point is lack of financial control. They do hire the bookkeeper from the account company consult, but due to the first entry, they recorded it manually in a notebook. But what are we worried about is when the second entry is processed, which is a ledger, because here where the mistakes may happen. That would affecting the adjustment process where there will happen a lot of adjustment of transaction. My next point is lack of capital resource. This is where the owner who has recently begun a business finds it difficult to persuade the capital financial to aid herself. Not to say more, but many financial institutions are hesitant to offer capital financing resistant to sole entrepreneurs due to their concern that they might not receive their money back in the event that the sole proprietorship fails or is dissolved. Lastly, financing and business credit is harder to procure. The owner may have a harder time securing financing and business credit than a corporation. An incorporated business is eligible for government funding and can raise funds fairly easily. A sole proprietorship generally can't. Part of the reason for this is that an incorporated business has a legal distinction that a sole proprietorship.